Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us to our JFrog Advanced Security Workshop Series. Today is the second workshop of the series, and our Senior Solution Engineer, Gautam Nerokonda, will guide us through container contextual analysis. Thank you again, Gautam, for your help, and thanks everyone for joining. I remember you that we are live, so feel free to ask any question in the Q&A box, and Gautam will answer at the end of the webinar. Gautam, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Alessandra. Hello all, welcome again. So today in this workshop series, we are going to talk about what container contextual analysis is about and how you're going to get advantages out of it. Again, a quick intro about myself. I work as a senior solutions engineer at JFrog. My role here is to talk to customers every day, understand their challenges, initiatives, and provide them with JFrog solutions that can help them better manage their artifacts in the organization, as well as manage the security aspect of it as well. Now, coming to the agenda, we'll quickly recap on what your software supply chain is composed of and what comes with it. And at the same time, we'll also look at the various challenges the security administrators as well as AppSec admins and developers face while analyzing a bunch of vulnerability reports that they receive. While analyzing their software applications, we look at how they can better manage these alerts and prioritize the high impact CVEs and reduce the false positives by using our contextual analysis technology that we have recently introduced. And we look at some of the analysis that we have done recently on some of the top CVEs and prove why this contextual analysis logic is going to be really helpful for your organization by comparing the results. And at the same time, we'll be switching to the demo unit and the JFrog platform in order to visualize some of these alerts and see how you can analyze your own set of Docker application using this technology. We'll also look at some of the best practices and remediation techniques that our JFrog security research team has provided for these alerts. So let's go ahead. Again, we see here that your software supply chain contains many other entities apart from your own proprietary code or the custom business logic that you might be developing. It can contain open source packages, APIs, libraries, frameworks, base OS layers, application frameworks on top of which your app might be running. So you have to take a holistic approach while securing your software supply chain and take a look at the security, licensing, and sustainability and operationability of these open source libraries to make sure that your software is secure and can be shipped to production with confidence. So when it comes to the actual set of analyzing the vulnerabilities associated with the open source components, mainly the industry has a standard to gauge the certain vulnerabilities by using CV identifiers and the CVSS scores, which basically determine the criticality level of the vulnerability, and globally the security community can share the information and findings and exploit techniques as well as remediation techniques using this common identifier as well. Here, when a certain security admin receives these reports, a lot of days are spent in analyzing the attack methods to actually determine whether the given CV is applicable to the organization or not. At the same time, the remediation options are also something that the information is not widely available a lot of times because the remediation technique has to be pretty much customized to the organization. And even here, the security researchers within an org might be spending a lot of time to develop the remediation guidance that they need to share with the developers. At the same time, developers who are actually relying on these open source components have a lot of friction involved, like getting introduced due to the same fact that security team is flagging these dependencies and putting a hold on what set of steps needs to be taken by the developer before they can freely use it in the production code. Now, mainly if you can prioritize the high impact CVs, which are actually going to cause an impact on your organization, which are actually going to expose certain application vulnerabilities that in such a way that the attacker can exploit this information very easily. Those are your high impact CVs. For example, out of all the CVs that were discovered in the last 1 year, there might be hundreds of thousands of them. Log4j picked up a lot of attention across all the enterprise organizations, because this is very easy to exploit, because it is widely adopted, and these versions of Log4j that are found with the vulnerability were released almost 2 years ago. So a lot of the vulnerable versions are already running in the production, and publicly exposed attack surface is available for the attackers to capitalize on. So that's where I call a Log4j as a high impact CV, for example. So if an organization's security administrators can prioritize on this high impact CVs, that will make the best use of their time. At the same time, if you have just introduced a software composition analysis tool in order to evaluate the vulnerability associated with them, you might be bombarded with lots of false positives or a number of CVs that are found. You might want to streamline these alerts and pick up your battle. At the same time, you can't have hundreds of security researchers join your AppSec team. That might be a killer as well, right? So prioritizing as well as reducing the false positives are going to be really helpful for the security admins. So now we are going to look at how the solution is going to look like. Now, when it comes to the actual methodology on how we can help the security administrators prioritize the alerts, what we have commonly seen is, if the vulnerable package is just installed, or the mere fact that it is present inside the software might not actually make the entire software vulnerable. It should be actually exploitable in order to make an impact for the security of the application. This is what we commonly have seen. Due to the same reason, these are the popular or most prominent instigators of CV false positives that we have found out across the analysis or the research that our JFrog security research team has done. Sometimes there are certain code prerequisites. A certain function needs to be invoked for the vulnerable part of the library to be executed. So there might be a chance that even though the vulnerable package is installed, that function might not be invoked. Same way, sometimes there is certain configuration prerequisites for a given service to be enabled. Of course, it can be a non-default configuration, and you might be utilizing the given library in the default configuration, which might not impact your organization. So you might need to also evaluate these sort of environment conditions. Similarly, the location or the runtime environment where the actual library is running might also dictate whether you are actually impacted by the given CV or not. For example, it might be a vulnerability that can be exploitable in a Windows runtime environment, whereas you are using the same vulnerable library in a Linux environment. So we'll look at some of the examples, and we will look at how we have developed the logic around our contextual analysis based on these same facts. Again, we have picked up the most prominent instigators. The reasons or factors are not limited to these 3 parameters as such, but based on the research as well as based on the majority of the CVs that were evaluated, we can mostly categorize some of the factors to be one of the 3 conditions here. So let's take a look at the first type of example or the instigator. The first one is the library vulnerabilities. Here you can see for the CV 2021 23337, we have a detailed explanation saying that Lodash versions prior to 4.17.21 are vulnerable to command injection via template function. So if the actual template function is not being utilized in the in the given software application, you might not be actually impacted by the given CVE. Similarly, there are other set of prerequisites that might include, wherein there might be a mitigating function that got invoked beforehand. There might be specific command line arguments within the template function that might make the CVE not applicable anymore. So you need to be aware of these conditions, and at the same time, your analysis tool that you are utilizing should be enhanced for checking these conditions. So that's where our JFrog advanced security capability specializes in. Similarly, we can see that, as I mentioned, a lot of services that are released to the community are tested for the most default configurations and real-world scenarios. So you can be assured that they are completely safe to use. One of the example here is an Apache Cassandra service, and here you can see for the CV 2021 44521, we have the detailed explanation on what are the conditions or the configuration parameters using which the given service needs to be invoked for the vulnerability to be exploited. Again, in this example, the specific flag should be utilized, and out of the various contexts that we have analyzed, this seems to be a quite rare approach that customers or user base would take an approach towards using those flags. So again, there are certain other conditions as well. Again, if you're more interested in learning what these techniques are, as well as getting into more detail on how we analyze the given CVEs, we have a dedicated blog. I'm just posting it in the chat out here that you can take a look at. Also, for our workshop, you can utilize this link to provision your own cloud instance that you can start working with. I have pasted it in the chat. So this is the blog that I'm talking about. If you're looking at more in-depth information, you can also analyze this. Oh, sorry. Thanks for the heads up, Ruben. Okay. Hope you're able to access the link now. Coming back. As I mentioned, when it comes to the third factor that actually determines whether the CV false positive instigator is available or not is the runtime environment. Again, here you can see an example wherein a CV 2022-26612 is mostly vulnerable in a Windows-based environment. So if you are using the given library in a Linux environment, then the given CV cannot be exploited. Here you can also see some of the other conditions as well. Of course, we won't go deeper into every detail as this is a short webinar. So in order to make sure that the logic that we have developed in order to prioritize the CVs as well as design the contextual analyzers around these CVs, we also put our tool to test in action by analyzing the top 200 community images that are popularly downloaded from Docker Hub. And out of those 200 Docker images that we have analyzed, we picked up the top CVs in terms of occurrences as well as in terms of popularity and severity. These are the top 10 CVs that we have identified. Now, when the actual instigators were analyzed for each of these CVs, we found that our contextual analyzer or the scanner was able to immediately flag these following conditions according to the three main instigators that we have evaluated. So for the given CV, we can also see the logic that we have developed in order to actually determine whether it is applicable to your organization or not, if the given CV is found in your proprietary Docker container image. Again, the analysis as well as the logic that we have developed has a lot of conditions as well as a lot of limitations and considerations that we have taken, and we have also given deep dive reasoning behind each of the approach decisions that we have taken. If you are interested more about finding the logic and why we made certain decisions, you can also look at the blog to understand more information. But in summary, once we were able to develop these contextual analyzers for each specific CVs, and we prioritized on the high impact CVs that are popularly widely adopted by customers in the first place before we analyze the hundreds and thousands of CVs that are already present in the user base. This is also the logic based on which we prioritize the CVs as well, by the way. Okay, this is the results. These are the results that we have found from the analysis. Turns out that 78% of the CVs that were found in the top 200 images were actually not applicable. Basically, the default configuration that they are getting shipped with are already secure in a way. So ideally, if you're an enterprise organization and relying on these top 200 Docker images, you can reduce the noise of alerts by almost 78% and focus on that 22% that actually is impacting your organization in the first place. So this is the benefit that you can get. Again, we have just picked up this example to make sure that we account in the majority of the software development community, and show the advantage of using this contextual analyzers. So I think we have covered enough of theory. Let's go into the demo unit and see how you can scan your artifact and get this contextual analysis, as well as a breakdown of our contextual analyzer that actually produced these results. If you have already used the link that I've shared in the chat, you'll be able to also follow along and perform the same set of steps by using your own JFrog Cloud free trial instance. Again, the chat is the link is available in the chat. Just to make sure if there are any recent participants that joined the webinar, they can have access to it as well. I have reposted the link in the chat. You can sign up with your email, and basically you'll be asked for providing various details like the region where you want to deploy the given JFrog Cloud instance, and also the cloud provider where you would like to have your JFrog Cloud instance deployed. You can select between 20 regions that we support across all the 3 cloud providers. JFrog also supports hybrid deployments as well. So if you're looking more towards, say, air-gapped environment or completely self-managed instance, we provide licenses for them as well. But if you're looking to just experiment and try out our platform, this is a good way to get your environment provision through our JFrog free instance. Okay. Now, once you have signed up, this is what the UI is going to look like. You'll be redirected to a sign-in page for the given SaaS instance that you have signed up for. Once you log in, these are the following options that you will be seeing on the Artifactories UI. So the JFrog platform UI. Mainly, the JFrog platform contains multiple products and services. You will have Artifactory, which is our universal binary repository manager. You can manage each of your repositories, the configuration that you need to download in order to integrate your CI/CD tool, build tool, developers IDE workstation, or the packaging client to work with Artifactories repositories. For example, by using the quick setup, I'm creating 3 main sets of repositories. Here, what we also recommend you to keep in mind is to follow a best practice of using a 4-part naming convention while creating each repository for your teams in the organization. Here, my team name is Shopping Cart. This is a team that dedicatedly works on my shopping application. So immediately it creates 3 sets of repos. The first one is the shopping NuGet local, because I have selected the type of repo to be NuGet. This is where all my proprietary .NET artifacts will be going to be stored under. There's a remote repository created that proxy crashes NuGet.org. This is the remote repo that performs an on-demand proxy caching of the public registry for various NuGet dependencies. So not only we provide you access to these remote dependencies that your development team is relying on, but we cache a copy of the given dependency so that you can operate complete offline, even if the given NuGet registry goes offline, right? So you will also have good visibility and traceability into what set of open source dependencies are entering your organization through these remote repositories. Of course, there are multiple other benefits, which I'm not going to cover today, but you can explore our Artifactory webinars as well as documentation if you're looking for more details. Likewise, you'll also be created with a virtual repo for the NuGet repositories. This is a logical reference point and an easier way to integrate and onboard Artifactory repositories. It can aggregate both your local repositories as well as remote repositories into one single source, which is the virtual repo URL. So why is this important here? The way in which the JFrog platform manages your binaries will help you to integrate every part and parcel of your CI/CD pipeline to work with Artifactory so that it becomes a single source of truth in your organization. Essentially, this single source of truth will make sure that these binaries are secured from a unified platform, and there's an audit record of what package is being utilized in your developers workstation, all the way in the dev environment, what set of packages are being utilized in your CI, as well as testing environments and continuous delivery environments, and in production as well. So we get to capture all of this metadata, and that's where X-Ray and Artifactory, being part of the JFrog platform, can also give you a more in-depth universal impact analysis. When a given library is found to be vulnerable, what are all the environments it is being utilized, how heavily it is being utilized, which teams are impacted, which builds, releases are being impacted. All of this information will be readily available while you analyze this alert inside the JFrog platform UI. By the way, we also support universal integration and REST API coverage. So all of this information is available in the fingertips for your security administrators, developers, and build engineers. That's the key differentiator that we have as a software supply chain security platform. Okay. So once we have our repositories created, let's go ahead and take a look at the way in which you can configure your package clients to work with Artifactory. Again, we have a set me up utility that comes in handy. For every repository that is created, we give you deep dive instructions wherein you can embed your access tokens as well and generate the customized instructions. Of course, I'm not going to do that in order to make sure that the password is not exposed. Even we provide the in-depth instructions to upload a given package as well as resolve a given package from Artifactory. Once you start performing these steps, all of the packages that you're relying on will start showing up here. And these repositories can also be browsed with advanced settings like multi-site replication that you can enable for global deployment or DR purposes. You can also utilize it for remote production sites, wherein you can replicate from one cloud region to another cloud region, even across AWS and Azure, for example. We don't have any affinity as such or deep dependency on the software stack on which Artifactory is deployed. We can replicate artifacts anywhere and everywhere. Okay. Now, what is more interesting that I'm going to switch towards is X-Ray, which is the focus today. There's an X-Ray tab that showcases the scan list, the list of all the packages that your Artifactory is serving, as well as repositories, builds, release bundles that you can explore. First things first, you need to enable X-ray scans on your repositories to start getting these results. So under the X-ray menu option, there's an indexed resources. Again, if you're using a older version of Artifactory and the JFrog platform, this option is available under Administration tab, Settings, and X-ray. But in this case, this is the new UI that we have recently rolled out in our SaaS. So you'll be able to access the X-ray index resources here. And you can click on Add a Repo and select which set of repositories you want to enable the scanning on. As a best practice, I have enabled the X-ray scans on all of my repositories. And I can see the X-ray scan status as well here. Depending on the number of components that are detected and their scan analysis status, I can view all of that information out here. Similarly, you can also scan your builds as well. We provide build integration capabilities by offering plugins for Azure DevOps, Jenkins, custom integrations for GitHub, Actions, GitLab CI, and so on. You can explore that and have that metadata captured by Artifactory and maintained within Artifactory along with the actual artifact, so that you can also calculate the diff between the builds and get customized reports on your builds in terms of security. So now let's go ahead and look at one of the Docker scan result. Here I have a Docker image name called exposures and the latest version of it. In summary, I can see where the various malicious packages detected, vulnerabilities that are detected, and exposures that are detected in the given Docker image. Again, if you're not able to see X-ray scan list, you might be running a previous version of X-ray. Please upgrade to the latest to start viewing this user interface. Now, if I click on security issues on the left-hand side, by the way, we also support SBOM export in SPDX and CycloneDX format with the new security mandate that is coming out from the federal entities across the globe. We have seen that this is an important capability that our customers need. So we are ready for the SBOM export capabilities whenever you are. Okay, so now when I click on the security issues and vulnerabilities, you can see the various CVs that are identified. And at the same time, I have a dedicated column that says which set of CVs are applicable, unapplicable, or undetermined. Depending on the information that our security research team has, we provide this information readily available for you. You can also identify the more in-depth analysis that we have for each CV by using the green icon beside each of the CV that I'm highlighting here. Now, let's take a look at one of the applicable CV results and the reasons why we think that the given CV is applicable to your organization. So here I have a CV 2020-1747, and I have a quick description about the insufficient input validation in the PyYAML library. There's a dedicated remediation technique for the given CV, and the details around the analysis that we have performed. You can see that it's a high severity one because the issue has exploit published and it is publicly available. The results can have a serious, severe impact, such as remote code execution, for example. So all this is good. Ideally, if I don't have a contextual analysis enabled, I'll be treating this as a high priority item and raise the alert for my security teams. But here, we also provide the contextual analysis drill down, wherein we see that the actual CV is applicable because the YAML loader is being used under a context called full loader. So all the capabilities are being utilized and the variable function is called in a way that the vulnerability can be exploited by the attacker. So you are actually being applicable for the given CV. Apart from that, we also provide more impact path information and public resources information, which is not our focus today, but this is how we'll be able to give you the exact reason why we think the CV is applicable for your organization. So now your security teams can now be more efficient while analyzing these CVs and look for these conditions or remediate these conditions under which you are using the library to better address these CVs, and in a faster way and in a better way, right? Similarly, I'll pick up an example wherein there's a CV that is not applicable, even though it says critical level violation according to the NVD database. So let me take high, this one. So here you can see the contextual analysis breakdown. The vulnerable class Django file response is never instantiated with an attribute as attachment set to true. So that's where the actual CV is not applicable to your organization. It cannot be exploited in your organization, hence the reasoning that we provide, and also some of the examples and the scanner logic that we have used around the custom CV that we see it on the screen. So this is how we can provide you a efficient way to manage these alerts and avoid false positives, and also allow you to prioritize the high impact CVs when a given vulnerability report is received by your organization. You can do a efficient job in managing these alerts. So all in all, these are the following benefits that you're going to receive with the contextual analysis support that we have launched. You can save developers' time as well as the security research team's time. You can also analyze the finished code or the binary format, which is actually the format in which it is running in the production. So you don't need to worry about whether the vulnerability is only present in the code or whether it actually got packaged into the binary or not, because we are actually analyzing both. And at the same time, we also have CVs and their exploitability and their potential impact information, which ideally the security research teams have to go across the multiple sources of information before they come to these conclusions on remediation techniques and impacts, because our security research team is doing this heavy lifting for you. And again, there are a lot of other benefits which we can definitely go through in a follow-up deep dive session with our solutions engineers. If you're interested, definitely reach out to our team and we'll be able to schedule a deep dive demo dedicated to your development teams and application security administrators. So now let's move on to the Q&A section. So I have a question around will the recordings be available? I guess so. We'll definitely follow up on this and let you know. And we'll be able to share at least some of the materials and a presentation PDF at least for the most part that you can utilize. So I also have one more question. Do I need to have a specific Docker container for the contextual analysis? So the answer is yes, for now. The contextual analysis was only available for container images. We are soon going to launch or expand the support for other base level packaging technologies as well. But the first hand release only supports Docker contextual analysis. The other question that I have is how often does the database gets updated or the CVs get updated with this relevant information? So as I mentioned, we have a dedicated security research team that works round the clock in order to update this information points and release more contextual analyzers every day. So we prioritize on package feeds as well as popularity among the customer base and launch these analyzers. And also the database updates are released twice in a day. Our X-ray update center database, call it as, updates twice in a day so that your X-ray instances can get these changes. I have also a question, can the state change from applicable to not applicable and vice versa? So this is a good question. Yes, the state can change depending on the conditions using which you are utilizing the CV and the information points that we have received on the given CV. Again, when a given CV is discovered, there might be initial set of information received, but there might be more clarifications that follow along the way. So based on that, we also enhance our applicability analyzers and launch this, roll out these changes into the production. Yeah, what does it mean if the contextual analysis state cannot be determined? That's a good question. So for the CVs that you see on the screen, wherein we have the information that are not applicable or not determined, so we don't have a analyzer, contextual analyzer for the given CV yet. That's the reasoning behind it. Okay. Lots of questions coming in the chat, but we are 5 minutes above the scheduled time. We will definitely follow up with responses offline through email. And again, thank you for joining us today, and looking forward to have you guys in our next workshop series tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Gautam, and see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.